This past spring, my next door neighbor behind me was trimming his 2 pear trees. He's got 2 Warren pear trees, as best I can tell. And after he cut a bunch of limbs off and stacked them up in his backyard, I walked over to him and asked him if I could have it to burn in my fire pit after they dried up a little bit. He said I could, and I came over with my little bow saw and sawed up all the limbs into 16 to 18 inch lengths, took it to my garage and stacked it up to let it dry, keep it out of the rain. Well, I was in the garage a few days ago, and I happened to see this pile of limbs, and I decided it might be fun to just reach into the pile and randomly pull off a limb and take it to the basement and make a bow drill kit with it. And this is what I came up with. The limb that I picked was a little bit wider, a little bit bigger than an inch diameter, and I decided that I'd cut off about an 8-inch piece to use as my fireboard, and maybe a 5 or 6 inch piece to use as my spindle. This is kind of worn down because I've been practicing with it quite a bit. And then I started whittling. And some of you may know what I didn't know at the time. I didn't realize that pear was such a hard wood. In fact, it turns out that the Janka hardness value of pear is about 1,660 pounds force. That makes it a little bit, not quite as hard as hickory, but it's almost as hard as black locust. And it's a lot harder than oaks, and it's a lot harder than the white ash that I've used in several of my videos. And for the firecrafters who are watching this video, pear is about 4 times harder than the red or slippery elm that most of you made your first bow drill kits with at Camp Randsburg. So it's pretty tough stuff. In fact, it's the toughest material, it's the hardest material I've used to make a bow drill kit. But the good news is you wouldn't be watching this video if I hadn't had some success with it. I don't usually make videos about things that don't work. But so what I did was I just decided that I would take my knife and carve off a flat spot on the top and the bottom just to make my fireboard. And my spindle ended up being, it's about as big as my thumb. It's a little more than a 1/2 inch in diameter. I wanted to make it a little bit smaller. When I'm working with harder woods, I like skinnier spindles. But it was just such a difficult wood to work with, and my knife was just a little bit dull. I got it down this small and I quit. In fact, I was so frustrated that I thought I would just throw this back onto the wood pile and burn it. But I gave it a try. I burned in a divot and notched it, and on my very first try I got an ember. And in fact, I've gotten 6 embers out of 6 so far. It's proven to be quite useful. It does take good technique, and you've got to lean on the spindle pretty hard, and you've got to bow with gusto. This is not a wood species that I would use for beginners, but it does work. Works quite well. So that's enough of me talking. I'm going to pause the video and get set up and do a little demo for you. Stay tuned, I'll be right back. Okay, let's give this Warren Pear bow drill kit a try. I'm using my one of my 16-inch honeysuckle bows, and I've got a stone that I picked up out of a creek that I'm going to use as a thunderhead. And I'm going to use my modified Egyptian bow technique. I've got 3 wraps, but no clove hitch. Makes for a secure attachment. Give it a whirl. Nice big ember. So an ember won't really ignite very readily until you fill the notch. And I probably should have cut this fireboard in half. It's about 1 inch thick. So it took a little longer to form the ember than it probably would have. Good news is I've got a lot of dust, and I'm going to be patient and let the ember grow. You might tell that I'm a little bit out of breath. Pear is usable, but it's not for beginners. You got to press down pretty hard, and you got to bow with some gusto. All right. Nice big ember though. There it goes. There it goes. It's fighting me a little bit today. So anyway, Warren Pear works just fine. Make sure your technique is good. Lean on that spindle a little bit more than you might normally. And I think it'd go a little bit faster if I thin out that fireboard. That's all for now. See you again next time. Bye-bye.